Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. You're free to like or dislike the video, so please feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos. As the title indicates, I have a couple of announcements. As everybody saw, I did not drop a Friday video. Mostly because it just was not ready. And then by the time I felt it was getting close to ready, a bunch of things happened in the world and in my life where I said, need to back off, I guess, and not do that. I also had a couple of comments that I felt needed to be addressed. And so the more I looked at it, I said, no video here. Plus, I've been kind of looking at some time management issues and trying to figure out some other things. The major thing that's happening in my life is I'm working on a certification that's going to take me about 14 weeks of online study and preparation, probably working at that about 10 to 15 hours a week. And so I have to hold down a full-time job and do that. Plus not go completely mad with the quarantine and, try to put out a couple of videos and a couple, I also read a blog and I'm backing off there as well. But the idea is to tone it back just a bit, just to allow me some more time, and it actually may fit me a little bit better. So what's going to happen is I'm going to move from 3 videos a week to 2. There will be one on Tuesday and one on Friday. The reason this is I usually get 2 full days off every week. And usually one of those days is a day where either my wife works and it's not around, and basically the apartment's quiet and I can do a video and not really sweat it. So without sweating interruptions and other things. Occasionally I hear noise in the background, but it's never been a major issue. For my blogging, I've even announced, I think, over there that I'll probably be dropping back to about 5 posts a week instead of 7. This allows me to kind of do my regular stuff there, and plus, spend half a day instead of a whole day working on a post. It's not really a day, but, a post takes me a good 45 minutes to do right. And so I don't like doing that. And then these videos usually take about an hour to fully do and render and all this other stuff. So that's the major announcements. I'm just backing off slightly just so I make sure I get some content done. Plus, I just want to spend a little bit more time on this certification that it should, once finished, have some fairly major impact on my life long term, which is why I'm doing it. And it will finally allow me to put my political science degree to some work. I'm going to run through some comments. I actually have them posted in front of me from my channel in order. I haven't addressed comments for about a week, and so I do apologize for that, but I've been busy and trying to come up with some other issues. I'm just going to run down some of them. I also have 2 of them that were YouTube classified as spam, and one of them's humorous and the other one's a little bit more serious. But I will definitely deal with those comments as well. That's why I didn't notice them right away, and they haven't been published on the channel, and I probably won't publish them because they are identified as spam. And if I publish them, then it might be identification. Usually sometimes you can be labeled as spam just for being annoying or being something that people don't want to deal with. It's not always that they're just trying to make money or just annoying the crap out of people. So here we go. Let's see. We'll start with I'm just going to, means I'm working my way backwards in time order. The most recent comment I got was about a day ago. From Bandelia Miskmagla. I don't want to butcher that name, but that's as close as I'm going to get. And he just thanked me for sharing my story on my deconversion story, which I will link above my head again. It is by far the most viewed video on this channel and still remains so. It has the most watch time and the most views and definitely the most comments. But he thanked me for sharing the story, and you're very welcome. Um, 3 days ago, Bill Sloan wrote this small comment, and I'm going to comment in a link on this one because it brings up another issue. But he says, every single one of us do wrong there, sin proven. Um, you're basically saying that us doing wrong equals sin. But that is not the definition of sin. That would be a very weak definition of sin. There's also several logical leaps. You're basically saying doing wrong equals sin, but you haven't really proven that doing wrong equals sin. There's some missing steps there. You have to say, okay, doing wrong is sin, so therefore sin exists and proven. But the problem is you're assuming a definition of sin that I don't think most Christians would assume if you really pin them down. To a Christian, I'd say that the vast majority of Christians would say that sin is a transgression of God's law. Now, that definition immediately indicates a whole bunch of other things that have to be proven. Okay. They would also say that God's law is the Word of God, the Bible. That Word of God is found in the Bible, and the Bible is the Word of God. So there's actually, to define sin as a Christian or a Muslim, or many Jews would define it, you literally have to prove a whole bunch of other things to even prove that sin is a legitimate concept. You have to prove that there is a God that gave a law in the first place, which I haven't had anybody prove to me to my satisfaction that there is a God that even exists. So, I wait for that proof. I've looked at all the apologists and I found them wanting. I'll be dealing with one in a minute. You also have to prove that the Bible's the Word of God. But we have no evidence for that either, other than people's opinions. A bunch of old people, old guys, old men in particular, wrote the Bible. Whether they were inspired or by God is completely unprovable. It's purely an opinion. It's a spiritual opinion. It's a thing taken on faith. And faith, in my opinion, is not a virtue. It's a very dishonest position to take. To have faith means you believe in something you can't prove by definition. I mean, even Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Okay, so literally we don't have any evidence for it. We can't see it. We hope for it, but the only proof that we have for it is we believe in it. That is a very dishonest position to take. So, between having to prove that God exists, having to prove that the Bible is God's word, having to prove that the definition of sin is legitimate, sorry, you're way off. Every single one of us do wrong there, therefore sin. I'm going to have to back up. What do you mean by doing wrong? Are you saying that everybody does wrong, that they do wrong all the time? I think one of the logical inconsistencies of theology, and in particular, if you take a more Calvinist bent, is the idea of total depravity, that every single action and event in life is tainted by sin, and there's no good to it. I'm sorry, that's an all or nothing proposition. All I have to do is show one good act, and then that's broken. But to say that we do wrong, yeah, but that sin is a spiritual concept, that this is what separates us from God because we transgress God's law. That requires a whole much more proof than just we did wrong, therefore sin. I think that's a pretty huge logical leap. I don't know if you meant that as sarcasm or seriously, Bill, but I would just say no, it's just not going to work. I get a couple of comments would deserve more subscribers. I'm one of those people that believes that things are earned. If I get subscribers, I'll earn them. I did get up to 20 subscribers recently, but I also dropped 2, so I'm back down to 18. That happens. People drop their channels. I've even noticed on major channels that you'll see them drop from time to time. Um, you lose people, you gain people. Liberated Ammon followed up on a comment, and a few other people may have had this comment about my subject about COVID-19 and whether or not the government has the right to say that we can't assemble. And I think I did a video based on the idea of peaceful assembly and so on and so forth. The right to assemble, quarantine, and the essential business of religion was the video. I'll link that one up above my head too. But that video, I want to clarify. When I say that the government does indeed have the right, under the assumption of peaceful assembly, to restrict assembly in cases of public good, and therefore they have the right to do this under a quarantine. I am simply saying that that is what the current law and the current government structure says is allowed, and what the Supreme Court rulings have allowed for. As a classical liberal libertarian and somebody who would read the Constitution plainly, I would say that no, they don't have the right to do that under any circumstance. And that would be one way that some people would say that the Constitution is weak because they didn't understand germs and stuff like that. I'm going to say, for the record, I think the act of quarantining the entire country to defeat a disease invites a hell of a lot more problems long term. I am very concerned with the mental health of people. Up here in the north, we have been indoors because of the weather for 4 or 5 months, depending on where you're at. And now you're asking us to stay in for another month at least. I'm going to tell you straight up that some people are going to start going batshit crazy. And with the 6.6 million people that have filed for unemployment in the last few weeks, I know the statistics of that. And so, I know that approximately, I think the last statistic I would, and somebody can correct me if they have a different one, but it was like for every 100,000 people that are unemployed, about 500 to 600 of them commit suicide out of despair, economic despair. It's called economic despair suicide. That's a lot of people committing suicide. And if that number is greater than, say, the people that eventually die from COVID-19, that means that the unemployment was more deadly than the virus. So perhaps we should have come up with a better solution. In the past, quarantines have usually taken sick people that have the virus, and quarantined them into the hospitals away from everybody else. That's a far easier thing to do, for one. Two, it doesn't involve a massive stripping away of rights, and it might be just as effective to do that, along with isolation of those that might be vulnerable to the disease, and we know who's vulnerable to the disease. So I think if those things could be done, and you tell every business, hey, you need to do these sanitary procedures, if you can follow any sanitary guidelines, then you should be allowed to stay open. I would say at that point that would have been a better solution. So no, personally, I don't think the government has the right to. I just know what the Supreme Court has decided and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. People ask me what I do. Am I a rebellious sort? Well, it depends. I mean, I have a line that I believe that I don't think the government should cross, and then I will fight back. But as long as they don't upset my life too much yet, and I am concerned for the rights of others, don't get me wrong, but, there's a time to fight, and there's a time to, plan and get ready to fight. And I think this is a latter time. I do know that in my own state of Michigan, the governor has become very unpopular because she's instituted rules that are even more stringent than New York and New Jersey, which have even more cases of COVID-19 than we do. I know we're third in the nation, and that's probably due to Detroit. and some of the other metro areas. But for those of us living out in the country, it's there's a case here, there, everywhere, but there's nothing. There's no major outbreaks yet. That may change. I'm not saying one way or another. I acknowledge that COVID-19 is a very dangerous virus, and it does kill. I'm thinking, though, that the percentages are probably supporting more of a quarantine of those that were sick and vulnerable rather than the entire nation. And I think that would have done a lot to alleviate some of the economic suffering. And, I am concerned, having dealt with a couple of suicide issues in my ministry. I do get concerned when people get unemployed, and more people get unemployed because the suicide rate goes up. And so, at what point do we draw the line there? And so I'm much more concerned about that. All right. I think that's it for the regular ones. Let's go to the spam ones. Uh, uh, this is a humorous one, and I'll take it for what it is. Why does my guy look like Sylvester Stallone and some hard makeup? One, my lighting sucks. I'm just using basic stuff and backlighting. But yeah, my eyelids, I have had that comment made before because I have the big eyelid, over eyelids, and it makes my eyes slit a little bit. So I kind of look like Sly. Not a lot. I don't look like him completely, but yeah, it's a nice comment. I'll take it for what it is. I know how to laugh at myself, so I'm good with it. The other one comes from Abdul Amana. I hope I'm getting that right. Abu Amana, and he uh, says this: suppose there's no independent origin for this dependent universe. Suppose there's no evidence for Allah. Are we and we are unable to prove him with empiricism, and it is made up gobbledygook. If I may ask, and only if you don't mind, in the worldview, is there anything absolute, objectively, morally wrong? Here, let me make sure that I got that. If yes, what would be the basis for your objectivity? Thank you very much, from a Muslim. All right, I'm going to make one comment, and this is where me and Bill Maher agree. I'm not very politically correct when it comes to Islam. I believe Bill Maher recently said on his show, PC kind of slit liberalism's throat there a little bit. Liberalism went down the dark side when they followed PC. I'm paraphrasing. Where we say that it's wrong to question somebody's culture. You don't need to. That's their culture, and that's just the way it is. And he makes a remark, if somebody eating off the bat, somebody eating the head off a bat is batshit crazy. I don't care about your culture, something to that effect. I feel the same way about Islam, and so does he. Even if Islam is very in depth and part of your culture, I would say it's a scary religion based on my readings of the Quran. Yes, I've read the Quran. I won't say that I've memorized it or have any great knowledge of it, other than there were several verses that scared the shit out of me because they could be taken wrong and incited to violence. And that's far more worse because it's pretty plain language what it's inciting against certain groups of people. I'd also say that Islam is very wrong in its misogynistic stance against females, and so it's all kind of crap to me. But the question here isn't about Islam. It's about, is there any room for my worldview for objective morality? If you're asking whether atheists have that viewpoint, there are a few atheists that hold to objective morality, and could give you a better basis for that. In my case, no, there is no room for objective morality because I don't see that any moral question is objective. There is no, probably the most common example that theists like to use is, what about killing? Well, except your own holy book, the Torah, has like 17 different words for killing, depending on what's being killed. some things are it's okay to kill, and other things are not okay to kill. So in some situations, killing is manslaughter. And some, when we talk about killing, you suddenly talk about all the nuances. And the moment you're talking nuance, you're not talking objectivity at all. Is it always wrong to rape? That's a tougher one, actually, than murder. It's something I'm still debating with. But if what would be my basis for morality at all? My basis for morality is survival. We treat each other well because we're a social species, and I don't kill other people because then they aren't out to kill me. It actually improves my survival odds and my ability to pass down my genetics. So it's not. It's a survival issue. We're a social species adapted for survival, and we've used our social aspects to do so. When people want to talk about objective morality, I'm not trying to be rude, but show me it to me. I mean, I don't know of any person they'll make this statement, some sort of statement that, this is objectively morally wrong. I think rape might be an interesting one, except because this is a comment from an Islamic person, they've already made rape relative. The fact that if, a woman can't deny her husband, even if she doesn't want to, I would classify that as rape. But a Muslim would say, no. So, I hate to break the news to you, but at that point, society, depending on your society, even rape is relative. And so I don't know when it comes to morals, everybody wants to make this, without God looking over our shoulder, we wouldn't have any objective morality. I disagree, but I also would disagree on the grounds, what do you mean objective? I'm sorry, the Bible, the Quran, I mean, I could go all day on their inconsistencies on morality. And at that point, I would say overall, both of them are pretty relativistically morally too. I mean, God seems to change his mind quite a bit in all the books, and so it just becomes a different kind of thing. I'm sorry I didn't see this comment earlier, Abu, but it's not personal. It's just it was marked as spam, and I don't check my spam folder very often, so there's that. But yeah, I'm sorry, the morality question isn't really a big one to me. I think I've addressed that in another video, and I'll link that above as well. That's pretty much it for the comments for the last time. Once again, I'm going to be changing my video structure a little bit, and I'm going to give you a little bit more details here. I am going to be posting videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. Fridays will continue to be the addressing comments, addressing the issues of the day, continue to be what it was. And then Tuesday will probably be my Life of Christ series, where I'm talking about the tall tale of Jesus Christ and a skeptic's disharmony of the Gospels. And I'll be going back and forth between those two for a bit, mostly to give myself some time. I want to thank everybody for stopping by and watching my channel. It's early yet, and I'm still plugging along at this thing, but I also have to back off for other purposes. Once again, welcome to my channel. Comments have a way of determining the content of Friday's videos or today's, and I will respond to them when I can. You can always ask me direct questions at any time. If you're looking to understand something, and now I will probably make a point of it to look at my spam folder as well. You're also allowed to make suggestions of what you'd like me to do in the future. Videos are going to be uploaded Tuesdays and Fridays, at least for a little while until I get this certification things done. I don't tolerate name calling in the comments section, so be advised. Demonstrate your point. Don't just call names. People ask me why that's a big deal to me, because I consider name calling the lowest form of argumentation. It is, without a doubt, a pile of shit. To call somebody a name and think that you've made an argument. Okay. I don't care what it is. That's why I don't like it when liberals call Trump a racist, homophobe, and I don't like it when conservatives, level things at liberals, all kinds of names, un-American or whatever else. When you have to call a name, that tells me that you haven't really thought through the issue and you're just knee jerking what your tribe tells you to do. Okay. Uh, it is the one great sign of tribalism is to call the other tribe a name and the individuals in it a name. Be sure to like, subscribe, and get your notification bell hit the way you want it. And hopefully, I can someday convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Ed Rabyd, the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.